since Braveheart.
Yeah. We're waiting for our guest as we're...
we had two beautiful women on this week, and they were both early. We're waiting for a dude, and he's late.
And it usually goes opposite way.
That's because he lives up the street. That's why. Yeah.
Well, I hope he has the good sense to stop and get us all New York bagels.
A little early plug.
Tell Jamal we sent them.
Yeah.
New York Bagel, Foothill, and Archibald.
Right next to the comic shop and the cat spaying operation.
Yes.
I think there's a massage parlor in that shop.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we get a sponsor from them? Sponsored by Happy Endings Massage Parlor. A proud sponsor of the Jeff Sargent Show. Come and get a nice, steamy, hot massage.
Jeff will be the guy in the goofy mustache asking the undercover cop for a happy ending.
I think we've got a coupon for a happy
For only $19.99.
The hot ones are always cops, boys.
Bring in your coupons from Chaotic Radio.
Tell them Dutchy Holland sent you.
Yeah, get your discount.
If you're Roy or Jimmy, supposedly you get a freebie on your next trip.
Yeah. And
they'll be filling in for us, by the way, but listeners.
Roy and Jimmy.
We have got
at least
gigs.
Beginning of the week, at least Monday and Tuesday. I think.
We've got gigs we can't mention yet because we don't want to jinx them. But it'll be Roy and Jimmy filling in for Pat, Jeff, and Dan.
Yes, we will be gone till the end of till the Hollywood show, and we'll have special
Possibly
guests.
before that, though. It depends how one of our gigs will end early. If it does, we'll be back earlier. But
Yeah. But, so it's around one day out of the 27th and back in May because it's going to be like a 2-month thing.
You're going to have a blast.
Yes.
New Orleans.
We are going to go down to New Orleans.
I got to tell you, I had such a blast in New Orleans. Kind of a famous story. My godfather is an Air Force general. So he was giving a big speech there one year. It was like 7 years ago, before the flood. My brothers, Don and Steve, and I hopped in a series of driveaways, drove to New Orleans because my father was flying in from Arizona. So we met my Uncle Chet, my Aunt Nancy were there. My Uncle Chet was giving a speech. And we came down, and New Orleans just blew my mind. It was like an R-rated Wall Drug. Wall Drug is this crazy cowboy town in the South Dakota Badlands. And it's just amazing. It was like Fat Tuesday every day. I mean, they were shirts were coming down, beads were being thrown. They would ring a cowbell and you would buy a 3-in-1, which was 3 beers for the price of one in one giant glass. You will see this when you're there.
Wow.
I had a hand grenade. My brother Don had been there a couple times, so he insisted my brother Steve and I got hand grenades and Skylabs. Both of them were amazingly deadly, powerful drinks.
Oh, my God. They call them a hand grenade?
Hand grenade, yeah.
What the hell is in a hand grenade?
A hand grenade is one of the most powerful drinks you'll ever drink. And
that sounds like a voodoo drink to me.
And what's kind of cool is on Bourbon Street, we spent most of the trip on Bourbon Street. At the end of Bourbon Street, there's a White Castle of the South called Crystals. Now, if you do New Orleans right, if you do Bourbon Street right, Jeff, but the end of stop twitting like a 13-year-old girl.
Like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling our guest to get
He's
here.
presidential.
Yeah. Well, that's where the resemblance between Jeff and anyone else ends. So anyway, you'd have Crystals at the end of the night, get a bunch of sliders to try and mop up your drink. You didn't want to wake up drunk because you'd have a hangover.
Oh.
There's a place called Mom's where they serve the brie sandwich. And that'll mop up any hangover that the sliders at the end of the night doesn't cover.
Wow.
What's kind of
That's an important thing to do, though.
It literally is. You got to and drink a big glass of water next to your bed. Have a slippery cup full of water by your bed. Drink it before you go to sleep. That's my hangover remedy. If you drink a big glass of water after a night of heavy drinking, you're always okay.
Oh, shit. My hangover remedy's just another cold beer, man.
Hair the dog, mother ever.
It's Dan's Hangover Remedies, brought to you by Chaotic Radio.
Dan's like Bruce Wayne. He sits in the dark, drinking, watching his father being crushed by a rodeo bull again and again. So, and my late father, this is one of my proudest moments as a son, and he was incredibly ashamed of this. We always would walk in formation. I would put my brother Steve in front, because the pickpockets are really bad in New Orleans too.
Oh my God, like Oliver Twist kind of thing?
Oh yeah, and
you've got to pick a pocket or two.
Well, this guy. So I feel this guy slide his arm past me into my father's pocket.
What?
So I grab him in front of everyone in Bourbon Street, and I could see his lookout. His marker didn't know, because I'm so big, he didn't assume Dad wasn't with me. But that's exactly why I put Dad in formation, so Stephen would feel it or I would feel it. So I yanked it, for those watching on YouTube later, I yanked his hand up like this, and I bent his fingers all the way back, the pickpocket, not my father. And I go, Dad, check your wallet, check all your cards. And I said, if one of them is missing, I'm going to knock your... And I said, this is the guy, nice loud voice, half-naked girls, people dressed as clowns, servicemen, everyone's watching. I bent his fingers all the way back and brought him to his knees. And I said, if anything's missing from my father's wallet, I'm going to knock all your effing teeth out. And my godfather was so proud, you know what I mean? But my dad was embarrassed that he was getting pickpocketed until I saved him. And so I made Dad look at the wallet. I made this guy scream. You can't steal from my dad. You know what I mean?
No, or anybody's dad.
Yeah, so I bent his fingers back really hard. And the amazing thing is, once Dad, he just snagged the wallet. He hadn't had a chance to steal from it yet. So I go... If I see you effing around us again, I'm gonna knock your effing teeth right out of your mouth. And as soon as I let him go, this guy just melted into the crowd. I mean, that's how good he was at just disappearing into the. He didn't even run.
How do you suggest that I put my wallet in my front pocket?
Yes. And put
because people bump up behind you.
Oh yeah, no, it'll happen all the time. Women will do it, men will do it. But my main argument is put something on top of it in your front pocket. Like if you have clean socks, throw one of them over it. You know what I mean? I mean, just to throw them off.
Or if I'm wearing a jacket, I don't know what the weather's going to be able to wear it. It's in the front of me, right?
Well, they do bump and dip. You know what I mean? I mean, excuse me, they'll have a newspaper or something. This guy. Every time I think of him, you know what I mean? I wish
Bump and dip, that's their trick, huh?
Yeah, that's how they do it. And with this guy, I just got so mad. I mean, you're going to steal from my father? What an insult to me.
Did you see that movie, Tintin? And
I did.
Remember the pickpocket guy? He's like, I can't help it. He was just a klepto, and he had all these wallets in containers.
That movie is so boring. It's a cartoon directed by Steven Spielberg.
I loved it, though.
I was bored.
I loved the idea that it was, the whole pirate thing and the 3 ships and the hidden treasure maps. And
that kind of Hardy Boys BS bores me. You know what I mean? Secret clocks and all that,
The pickpocket scene was good with the 2 Tweedledum and Tweedledee twin cops.
I remember the shark. There was a shark in it. Remember, there was a shark in one scene, but that's all I remember. It didn't really make an impression.
Well, you're going to remember a shark in any scene.
Yeah, it's kind of my jam.
Yeah. Well, good. Okay.
And at WonderCon,
thanks for the ups on the pickpocket because I'm always a back wallet guy around here. I mean,
right. Well, another thing, when you go to the Easy Rider Marie Laveau Cemetery. Go early in the day. What people they don't tell the tourists is that place, the famous cemetery, where they're all buried above ground.
Yeah.
It's
is that because of floods?
Yeah, because you'll be caught in a lot of 3-minute floods. You'll be soaked, and then the wind will dry you. The heat will kick in. within like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I mean, you'll be completely dry again. But with that, there's a giant housing project, and there's a lot of ex-cons working out, and they're doing nothing but working out and watching tourists enter there. And I know, when we were there, cops were running through the cemetery because somebody got robbed by the guys from the housing projects. It didn't happen to us because, you know, after the pickpocket, anyone tried to mess with my dad, Don, Steven, and I would just cripple them. Yeah, I mean, it's your dad, man.
Yeah. So how'd your dad, he said your late father.
Yeah.
He's passed.
My father
Why
passed.
so young? 'Cause he can't be much older than my dad. My
Yeah.
dad's still around.
Well, horribly enough, my father passed on my birthday.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I mean, about 5.5 years ago, my father was coming back to town early, and he had a tear in his aorta. You know what I mean? I mean, and God bless whatever good Samaritan this was. He was at the rest stop for this beautiful little California town called Wairika, you know, right on the border of Oregon. And the whole place looks like just this beautiful Anytown, USA. I was stuck there once, ironically, like a couple of Christmases before. My brother Tom and I were on my way to see my dad. It started snowing, and the whole town looked like a snow globe. It was all set up for Christmas, you know? So my father was having trouble, I think, with his heart. Somebody called him an ambulance, you know? And one of the things we did is the three of us went to go get his car out of that little town. And I talked to one of the physicians who worked on my dad, and they don't usually do this, but I asked him to describe my dad's final hours, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to hear this?" And I said, yeah, I need closure, you know? So, yeah, he was a tough guy, and it was a sad way to go, you know? Yeah. A guy with 5 kids shouldn't die surrounded by strangers in a small California town. You know what I mean? And he was coming down early on my birthday. And I had an audition that day. And I came back. I knew he was going to be up at the house. And, you know, it was my birthday, and I was going to say hi to my brothers. And I walked in, and I saw Father Ned's car, you know, our parish priest, and he was a good friend of my father's. You know, usually they would break out a bottle of Jameson's and tell great stories. And so I was looking forward to it. It was almost like an Irish thing, you know what I mean? So I come in, and Father Ned, he's from Limerick, he's from Ireland. He turns to me and goes, "Boy, I'm so sorry for ye." And my brother Tom ran in and goes, "Father, I didn't tell him yet." You know what I mean? And oh my God. And the rest of it was just a blur. And that I haven't really celebrated my birthday since. I mean, my brother Steven's birthday is 2 weeks after mine. And it's really sweet. He always throws my name on the cake or makes sure, you know, that his kids sing me happy birthday, but he knows how I feel about it. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, because I lost my dad and I lost my big brother 2 months after that. So it was a really bad year. And in between my father and my brother, my agent died. Karen died. My cat died. My poor little cat, baby Doc Duvalier.
I'm so glad you didn't have a goldfish.
My cat trots.
Sea monkeys.
Literally about 3 weeks after my dad died and about a week after my agent died, my cat trots in my lap. He was an older cat, but he trots in my lap and drops dead. And
No.
I literally felt like Typhoid Mary. It's like, oh my God, I'm glad I don't have a goldfish.
Oh man.
So it was a bad run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Knock wood.
Brings up something very interesting. Sea monkeys.
What
the hell were those things?
They're
brine shrimp
in suspended animation.
They just amazed me.
Yeah,
You know what?
you could train them. They wear little crowns. They look like Howie Mandel.
I saw I remember when I was 8, I would see the comic book ads for sea monkeys in the back of like World's Finest.
Yeah, train them.
Yeah, and I thought, my God, I'm going to rule them as a god. I'm going to take the woman, because the woman sea monkey was always pretty hot. And the male sea monkeys were all kind of like cowed by their new human owner.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like Claude Akins in that episode of Twilight Zone, The Little People.
Yeah.
Remember the astronaut who's stomping on the village?
Stomping on the...
And I thought, oh man, when these sea monkeys get here, I'm gonna carry the girl around like King Kong, and I'm gonna teach the other sea monkeys fear. and it was just this crap that sat on the top of the fish tank.
Well, they said, you could train them. You could tap the glass on your bowl, and they'll come over. I'm all like,
they looked like Wheaties. Honestly, they looked like somebody in high heels had crushed your bag of Wheaties.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. Even the snails weren't really eating them.
It had to be the right temperature and the chemicals to bring them, or like freeze dried, suspended animated, like that technology. It was just brine shrimp. It was just to feed other fish.
I kept
at the
thinking,
fish store.
How am I going to rule them like a god if they don't do anything? They sure as hell didn't look like the pink hottie and her friends.
They won't respect you at all.
Oh, I don't want respect. I want fear.
You want fear. You cannot strike fear into sea monkeys.
I will be like a 70-foot Joseph Stalin.
Do you think other brine shrimp in their natural habitat insult each other, calling each other sea monkeys? Get out of my way, you sea monkey.
Go back to the circus.
Stay away from those micrisms.
Remember the sea monkeys would be blowing horns in the ad and dancing. That totally didn't happen.
Through hoops.
Yeah.
They were just trash.
I had such plans with my sea monkeys.
When you're young, you're so stupid.
It was going to be like Manzanar with sea monkeys.
That's like me with hamsters. I loved hamsters.
We had hamsters.
Well, my cousin gave me a hamster. His name was Kermit.
Your cousin's name was Kermit, or the hamster was named Kermit?
I had one fish. And it's so funny because I won him at a circus. And I got the fish for throwing a ball inside a dish. And he goes, yeah. My mom is like, oh, shit. So she just got out a flower pot. And she goes, here, put the fish in here. And I'm like, well, what do I feed it? She goes, I don't know, fish food. I go, well, what do we have? She goes, I don't know. I think it's some leftover chicken in the refrigerator. So I flopped a drumstick in.
I dropped the drum.
I assume Mr. Fish wasn't long for this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next day he was dead.
Fish love chicken.
Fish love chicken.
It's KFC, dude. Come on, that's good chicken.
Oh, that's terrible.
I feed my fish KFC.
I remember we had a beta fish, and I remember one morning when he would be eating the dead fish, and that was always kind of traumatic. Get them both in the toilet. Get rid of them.
Yeah, my hamster, I had all the wheels and all the accessories and tubes and got really into it. My friend had a female hamster, and so we let him breed. We're like, man, we're going to be rich. We're going to sell all these hamsters. Well, they broke out. And then they were living like inside the couch and up and then they started dying. There's
Hamster festation. You can stake something's dead in here.
There's cute rats. I mean,
we had a cat in Michigan. I remember when I was in junior high, Captain, his father was a University of Michigan. Again, it was a gift from my godfather. We got him and his sister, and Captain grew big. Captain was like a huge cat. His father was they would test growth hormones on his father, another cat. But I remember in the snow when it was like 12 or 13, right before we moved out of here, I would walk to junior high, and Captain would follow me all the way to the field. And then he would stop at the field, and he'd start eating field rats and carrying them all the way home and dropping them on the porch for my mom. And Captain got so good, he would literally kill every rat on the block and just put them on the front porch.
Yeah, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they had cats, and they had a doggy door. So she'd bring the birds and lizards and everything, rats, whatever she could get, and she'd bring them right in the living room. And here you go, owner.
Wow. I remember one of the more amazing moments of my father and our Irish setter's life. We had an Irish setter. My dad My dad had to take care of my uncle's dog when my uncle was gone a lot, because my uncle was like 7 years older than my father. And so dad kind of resented dogs. But when he had 5 kids, of course you're going to get a dog. My mom had grown up with dogs. And I remember he never cared for the Irish setter, you know what I mean? But the puppy ran into traffic, and he jumped into traffic to save the dog. And that just blew me away. I mean, this guy saving a dog he didn't really care for. One of my father's greatest hours,
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you do for your wife.
Yeah, he did that. I knew he did that for my mom. But, and my mom, I remember she pressed me against her apron, so I went to the puppy mashed, But he was mowing the lawn. This aerospace engineer is mowing the lawn, and he stops to run into traffic and save my mom's dog. Kind of a great moment,
Yeah. I had great dogs.
You still do. I love that dog of yours.
Yeah, she's great.
My dog hates Jeff.
Well, I'm going to get me a dog, I think. One of those, what do you call them? A road dog. That's what I want to get. I want to get me a road dog.
Road dog.
Yeah, I could use a road dog for the trip.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a fun trip. You know what I mean? He's driving, though.
No, I'm driving.
But you're not driving your truck.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be lonely. When I drove my friend from Texas, I had a little dog, like a little wiener dog. It looked like Dotson. It had Dotson Doberman features, but it was a little dog named Jackson. And that was my road dog.
Yeah, my dog before my current dog, Lucky, he loved road trips, man. He'd sit on my lap and just relax. And once in a while, he'd like to look out the window and he'd, do what dogs do. Princess, though, she just pants and she panics and she doesn't like going in the car.
Doesn't like the motion. Most dogs love. Cats hate cars. Dogs love cars.
Yeah, I think dogs like the idea of going anywhere they're not invited usually to go.
I mean, how many times you can open your dog and some strange dog will jump in your car in the
But the excitement, if I'm walking my dog and I have to get something out of the car, she's so thrilled to,
They love to go for rides. Now, there's that new movie, Isle of the Dogs. What do you know about that movie?
Isle of Dogs. My brother Don set my niece up for an advance.
It's all stop motion, right?
Yeah.
Real?
My brother Don had got my niece into an advanced screening. She loved it. So
and those are they're about those big puppets
Stop
they
motion,
animate,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's real old school stop motion.
Yeah, kind of like Fantastic Mr. Fox, that movie he did.
Yeah, that's right.
So intriguing, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't really see stop motion cartoon movies, but I'll try to check that one out.
Yeah. We're watching this thing called Baby Einstein on I think it's on Amazon with my granddaughter, and they're doing it's stupidness for one whole day every week. And it's, I like guts and I like people getting slashed by the jugular and stuff, and it's like, so they do this, old MacDonald had
Oh, God.
E-I-E-I-O, with a chick here and a chick there, and there's a little chicken puppet, and it goes down, then there's a pig and a horse, and then up comes what I think is a cock. That's what I
It's Einstein?
I couldn't even think of the name of what that
Circumcised or uncircumcised?
But it's a rooster, And here it's a rooster. Rooster goes, and they said it, cock-a-doodle-doo. Then I go, okay, well, they kind of said it.
Remember?
Now, is this 3D animation? What kind of animation? Is it the puppet animation?
Puppets.
Really limited.
Really cheap. I don't know. The guys that are making a fortune, but it's really cheap crap,
I interviewed Gwyneth Paltrow for one of the Iron Man movies, and she said the only thing she could do that would impress her kid was appear on Little Einsteins.
Yeah, because the little tiny babies, they really can't act. It hasn't really hit them yet. They just show them they're playing, hitting things and knocking stuff over. I'm just like, Why do is that what Einstein did?
It's
like
it's
little
like,
Einstein.
It's like having a drunk in the house.
It could be.
They should be doing
house.
equations, and solving things.
Yeah,
I
making
remember-
atom bombs. Whatever.
I would
Split the atom.
yes. That's too funny.
How do we get this far?
Yeah, little Einstein just took a crap in his pants.
Yeah, what kind
I'm
of
gonna
radio
grab some
show
water, I'll be
goofs
right
on
back.
Einstein?
What's one?
There's bottled water in the fridge. I bought it so you could have some.
Maybe I should just eat these Pop Rocks. We got cotton candy, which is a clown's favorite.
Of course.
And
circus
we
clown
have cotton can't wait, they're both they're just the same thing on the it just says popping can cotton candy explosion in 2 different color packages.
I ate so much Pop Rocks one day when I was a kid. I had been like 8 or 9. I had the worst gas.
Oh yeah, well, the thing's still
Dude,
popping.
I could have blasted it off to Mars, man.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, now I'm not safe to fart. I'm at that age where it's like, can I fart or is something gonna come out with?
Oh, hey, our guest is here, Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey is in the house with a backpack full of special effects. He's going to blow this place up.
Pleasure, Chris. Come on over here.
All right.
Right here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got the great Chris Bailey with us. If you're playing at home, you can punch up his IMDb now or let us interrogate him. Chris, you're an Uplander.
Yes, I am. Good morning, guys. Thanks
Morning,
for having
sir.
me.
Thank you for coming. What was your first movie as an effects artist?
Oh, special effects. Let's see. God, it goes way back. Started more commercials back in the day.
Any from Michael Bay?
What's that?
Any from Michael Bay?
No. A lot of motel toy commercials back in the day.
Wow.
Motel toys, Marlboro cigarettes back when they used to shoot cigarette commercials.
Wow.
This is when you were a kid with your dad?
No. This was like 15, 16. Actually, I started doing stunts first.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were you with Teddy or Jonies?
Teddy's?
Wow, good man. Okay. Do you know your difference between an air ram and a ratchet?
Oh, yeah.
Good boy.
What about a poor man's ratchet?
Wow.
Actually, when I first got started, it was 1978. My stepmom did hair and makeup.
What was your stepmom's name?
Cindy Domino.
Cindy Domino.
Evil woman.
Oh.
But no, she did hair and makeup like on Rockford Files and Quincy and stuff like that. So
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, so as a kid, I was always on set. So my first work permit, I was 8. So 1978 Rockford Files. So I have actually 40 years in the business because I'm 48.
Wow, amazing. How was Rockford? Did you talk
James
to girl?
Garner was great. I mean, I remember sitting and having many meals with him and, just talking. And
Well, you hit on your stepmom?
I'm sure. I think there was a lot of weird stuff going on back then.
Yeah. It was the 70s.
I remember at Chino High School, they were filming Quincy, and we were watching them. They were filming at the Chino Hospital, and everybody at lunch went over to get Jack Klugman's autograph.
Really? Yeah. What always made me laugh about Quincy when you watch the reruns on MeTV, Jack Klugman was the biggest star on the network at that time. So when you watch the show, it would always have, at the end of the episode, Quincy would have whatever the hot female guest of the week would be on the beach with him. And he'd be turning towards her and giving her some piece of genius wisdom. And you look, and over Jack Klugman, it's beautiful, it's sunny for all his close-ups. Then they have the female, the guest of the week looking up at him, and the clouds are crappy. He made her wait and left. He's off at the races or golf course.
Oh, I bet.
The skies are gray. They don't even match in the cutaways. It's hilarious.
Well, you said it. It was the 70s. So the things they got away with then, they can't do now.
No. We were just talking about that earlier.
But as far as first special effects job, as far as big movies, it would have been, let's see. God, it goes this way back.
Let's see. Let me remind you. Kazam.
Oh, yeah. That was
96.
Hey, no. Don't get ahead of us. He's starting us on his first gig. This is important.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to think, like, you know, you spend, when you start doing special effects, you end up in the shop, you know, so you end up like on a lot of little movies or big movies, but you're pre-rigging, you know, so I'm just trying to think what would have been some of the earlier movies. One of the first Turtle movies, Ninja Turtle movies, I remember we did a lot of stuff for that.
Really? In North Carolina, right?
Well, no, we pre-rigged here. All that equipment came here. So that would have been Joe Lombardi at Special Effects Unlimited in Hollywood, California. So, you know, you as a shop...
That was Bruno Zeebrock's shop, right?
No, that was Joe Lombardi's shop.
Oh, seriously?
Special Effects Unlimited was started by Joe Lombardi, who is considered the godfather of special effects.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. We passed away a few years ago. He was actually on set in Prague, and he was, approaching 90, I think, like 88.
Wow.
Somewhere in that area. I mean, he basically died doing what he loved. But he's
A fire stunt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, you know, Joe Lombardi is like Apocalypse Now.
Wow.
You know, that type of thing. But like when he first started back in the day, it was like Lawrence Welk, and like he built like the first bubble machine for Lawrence Welk.
Oh, wow. That's special effects.
That is
special effects.
It's a physical effect.
Yeah. So, you know, everybody, especially in the 70s and 80s, they all looked up to Joe. So to come up through his shop was a big honor, you know. So that's the thing. Like when you're in the shop, you end up working on all these little things, you know, even though you don't know really what you're working on. It's like, okay, go prep that rain job. Go get those smoke machines or fix a smoke machine. So you end up on all this stuff that, you know, sometimes you don't even really know what you're working on. You can work on 5 things in one day because you're prepping smoke machines, you're getting rain, you're rigging fire bars, you know. So it's really hard to kind of narrow down like what would have been the first movie.
Right.
You know, as props, because I was doing a lot of stuff between stunts and actually a prop shop and doing props and set dressing. You know, it was like whatever paid the bills, you know. I didn't start working for Unlimited full time until I was like 19 or 20.
Wow.
So for those 5 years, like from 15, because I used to work for stunt guys because I grew up in Shadow Hills, California. So a lot.
Where is that?
Shadow Hills is just below Burbank, so it's east of Burbank, like literally like 4 miles, 5 miles.
Wow.
So it's a rolling foothill. So it's
like Sylmar.
Above Sylmar. So like to the right of Pasadena, those same foothills. So the Glendale Mountains roll into Pasadena.
That's a great Shadow Hills. It sounds great.
Oh, it was awesome. But there again, like, you know, you throw a rock and you're going to hit somebody who's in the film industry. You know.
Yeah, true.
That guy's dad's a lighting guy. That guy over there, his dad's a grip, or, you know, cinematographer or visual effects, or, you know.
My 10-year-old nephew, his little girlfriend is just became a child actress, and she's on This Is Us or something every other week. So you know what I mean? Right. It's hilarious.
That's pretty funny. So yeah, to kind of break down one of the first ones. I mean, it wasn't until I got into Unlimited that, you know, you had all of the exposures. But there again, they did a lot of commercials, a lot of rock videos back in the day. But Kazam, yeah, that's probably 94. That was probably the first time I was actually out of the shop and on set full time for like 4 months, you know, with Shaquille O'Neal.
Did you make the magical boombox?
I do remember making a mold of his hand, and it was like 2 of my hands was one of his hands. Like that was like how big his hand was. If you put 2 of your hands together like that, oh my gosh. Yeah. But no, he was super nice. You know, that was one of his first films too. So, you know,
I think that and Steel kind of ended his film career. Blue Chips too.
Steel, I remember that.
That's funny. So yeah, no, that was that's actually that one. A lot of people were going union then, so they were bringing a lot of unions. So 94, 95, 96, because 96 we ended up on a movie called Volcano.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, we had 110 effects guys on there at one time.
I think it was Mick Jackson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, who did the Steve Martin movie about L.A.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how do
What
you
was
make
the hardest part in that? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
the phony? You make artificial lava, right? When you're filming how do you make
What-
lava?
Well, that was all visual effects. So visual effects has really come mainstream back then. I mean, it was like the beginning of it. No, all that lava was all shot. They faked a lot of it, But what they did at the end of that movie is we did visual effects. So I actually jumped on the visual effects on that. That was all orange goop on clear tables that were on gimbals, so you could slant the table. Wow. So you would have fluorescent lights underneath with the right lighting, the yellows and the reds. And they would we would pull a shelf out in that on a slant table, and that lava would roll down. It was methocel mix, what's in like Hostess fruit pies,
Right.
food material.
But what's interesting is I've done a lot of creature gigs, and they use methocel for like if it's slime, if it's alien slime, they bust it out, or drool.
We use that in a calendar year. I use that a lot. So anytime like, even for faking concrete.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah. Well, you'll use a methocel base, So if we're gonna shoot slime or goop or I have a thing coming up soon where we have to have a fire extinguisher rig. We got to shoot a guy with like foam. Well, that'll be a methocel mix of some sort.
Will that be for Preacher, or will that be for? Oh, a little closer to the mic, Chris.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. And talking to the band, it's a side mic. So
it's a side feed microphone.
What does that mean?
It means talking to it like this.
Talking to it. Okay.
There we
That's
go.
why I play a little music so you get our guests set up.
Let's see. What do we have on Preacher coming up? Well, we use actually a lot of methocel on Preacher. If you've seen the show, there's a lot of little different gags between throw up and just slime. And last season, we were in hell, so we did a lot of stuff with them. So
How was the wrestler Tyrus to work with?
That whole crew and cast is amazing. Half of them are out of New Mexico, the crew wise. And they're just really, really good filmmakers. And they find themselves in New Orleans. So half the crew is New Orleans, half of them in New Mexico as far as the crew goes. The cast is amazing. Last season, I didn't spend a lot of time with the cast because it's such an effects heavy and stuff heavy show.
Visual and physical.
Yeah, we spent so much time pre-rigging. Matter of fact, this year, I can't give away secrets, but this year, it's to the point where we're almost going to have 2 special effects companies tackling it. So you guys look for the 3rd season of Preacher. It's going to be pretty amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing because we used to read the comic book.
Yeah,
we I used to live in the back of a comic book shop, and he would come in and.
Matter of fact, when I fly back Monday, I will probably jump right back on that. So they have 6 weeks left. They're on episode 6 right now of 10.
Wow.
And so, like I said, it's one of an unusual thing. And then, of course, being in New Orleans, it's a small market. So anybody, when you have a big effects show like that, so they've had to bring in effects guys. So like they're bringing me in from California. They're bringing in the 3 guys originally from New Mexico. The whole crew from New Orleans. There's pretty much every effects guy is going to be working on Preacher at some point this season because that's how big it's going to get. So they're going to do some big stuff.
Okay.
What network is it on?
It's AMC.
Yeah.
Oh, it's AMC?
Yeah. Yeah, they love those comic books.
They do. They do. Walking Dead's been very good to them.
Yeah, it has. It has.
Wow.
That's one show I have not worked on, but
But now that you're out in New Orleans, you'll be fairly close. They're shooting at Hotlanta.
Yeah, no, it's a whole separate little world. I mean, I come across all the guys from Walking Dead, but it's still 8-hour drive to Savannah and where they're shooting and all that, Woodstock and all that. They're all over Georgia. Wow. So.
I just worry half the cast is going to get skin cancer because it's all outdoor shots.
Yeah, I was a fan of it. I'm a little bummed that they got rid of Carl, but hey.
Well, once the hero can't protect his own son, there's really not a show anymore. Is
Yeah,
there?
it kind of goes downhill, right?
Yeah. But interesting. So, what'd you do on Ninja Turtles?
Oh my gosh! So, like I said, back then I was what's considered a knuckle dragger special effects guy. So, in the shop. So, getting smoke machines ready and packing the truck, and they'll give you a list every day. From what I remember, just pulling all the equipment, getting it ready, working with the effects coordinator, and his foreman, and making sure that they have all their right tools and the welders and the chop saws, because it's, doing special effects, it's a lot of steel work too. So we're always fabricating one-offs of something. Like if this table was to collapse here, we would have to redesign it and make it so it would crash and fall. So there's always a welding package. There's always a wood package. There's always, all that rigging. So you got to make sure all the nuts and bolts and just everything as far as rigging is there. So back then, it was just the same thing, loading the trucks, going through the list, making sure, because, all that stuff went back east. So back then, it was the same thing as what we do now, just going through the effects truck, making sure it's all rigged, and getting the smoke machines and the rain. And I think they did, I want to say that first one, there was rain. I think there was a lot of rain. I remember something about rain on that one. So, and a lot of smoke, obviously.
That was shot in Canada, too, right?
That I don't know. No.
Okay.
I just know from the East Coast.
No, North Carolina.
North Carolina, but yeah. Matter of fact, Joe Lombardi from Special Effects Unlimited had a studio out there. So I think they shot some of it at his studio, which I want to say is still there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Any shark movies on your resume?
Shark movies. Well, there's we've done enough stuff with sharks, but no, we did not sharks per se, but sharks in the movies. We did USS Indianapolis a couple years ago with Nicolas Cage.
Did you really? Mario Van Peebles?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, Mario was amazing. It was I don't know, how do you say it? It was a good challenge for a movie. We shot in Alabama. We ended up shooting the majority of the movie on the USS Alabama. It's just the closest ship in the stockpile of museum ships that is like the Indianapolis. We spent some time in in the ocean doing the stuff, but a lot of it there, again, they did CGI, and so we faked a lot of stuff. We actually had from California, we had about 120 gallons of talking about Methocel earlier, of fake shark blood. So we put blood in the water.
Wow.
But what we discovered is once we inserted the fluid into the ocean, it just dissipated so quick.
They had that problem on Jaws. They had to triple the blood for any scene to get it to show up on camera.
Right. So it was just kind of a waste of time. So, we spent thousands of dollars on shark blood being made here in a company in Santa Fe, California, and had it all shipped out and the whole thing and ready to inject it, and had all these ways of doing it, and then all just sat there. Which was, but there again, it's like that's part of the job. We were ready.
Wow. Yeah, that's all that mattered. Now, but let me ask you, how many of the sharks were mechanical? How many were digital?
Well, the majority of them were all digital. So there was one, well, technically there was two. There was one main shark, and there again, I didn't have much to do with that because we were pre-rigging for other things.
Sure.
So they shot those on separate days when we weren't doing the stunts. We helped stunts do a lot of stuff. So there was one shark that had a movement, and then there was another one that just went straight. So there's technically two. But so the rest were all CGI. And then after the movie, they did go back up to Northern California. The gentleman who did the sharks was out of Northern California.
Was that Walt Conte?
I think it was.
He did Deep Blue Sea and Anaconda.
Yeah. But there again, I didn't have much contact with him. We were pre-rigging for all the fire that we were doing. At that time, say as a coordinator now, I'm not spending a lot of time on set. So I'm pre-rigging ahead. And so I'm dealing with the fire department. Like on USS Alabama, it was meetings after meetings on how we were going to do all the fire and all the fire explosions on Alabama. So when my guys were down at the water, I would start my day at the water and, make sure everything's going. And then I would leave and go and do my meetings and stuff. So a lot of the crew now, like on dealing with Walter and all them, like I didn't deal with him that much. And then, of course, they did so many separate shots for visual effects that I was like, well, it's not really part of us, So the mechanical end, I was pre-rigging for that. So I think I got to see the shark once when they took it out of the box. But yeah, it looked pretty amazing. I mean, those guys really nailed it.
Yeah, so. Great. Well, let me ask, since everyone has one, give me your best Nicolas Cage star.
Oh, geez. We're getting ready to do another project with him. He's an interesting chap. I guess I would say when we had him in the water one night and we were doing fire around him, and he was really professional and really cool, and you felt like, oh, okay, he's loosening up a little bit, And then we literally have fire bars in the water, and we're in the bay in Alabama, and we have, we're pumping propane literally in water, and we're having to light it, and sometimes it goes out, so you got to relight it, and it goes whoosh, gets a big whoosh of propane, and he was so professional about that. So the last night of shooting, Mario and everybody, all the producers and crazy producers on that one, by the way, they all had like champagne and strawberries and all this stuff for him, and you could see where he was just like not into it, like, and it wasn't even a long day for him. He had only been there maybe 6 hours. We put him in. He showed up. He stood around and told some stories. And then we put him in the water. He was in the water for a couple hours off and on. And then it was last night of shooting. And then they get him back up on the dock. And they pop all the champagne. And he seemed to be nervous about it. Like, he didn't really, like, he wasn't really, like, he didn't want to be looked at, And so, like, I think he did, like, a little toast with the director and the producer. And then the producer made, like, some little speech. And all of a sudden, he was gone. Wow. Just gone. Like, yeah, all right. Put the champagne down and left.
Wow.
Like, I guess he's not really into partying. I guess the continuation of that, though, one thing I did like, or what I thought was amusing, is Nick Cage is Nick Cage. There is no switch. It's not like he's standing there and he's talking and BSing with us, and then all of a sudden they say, okay, camera's up, and he stands in front of the camera and turns it on. Nick Cage is just Nick Cage. So he could be sitting here telling a story on this microphone and then walk right in there in front of the camera, and it's just the same guy.
Wow.
So I thought that was really amusing. Like, I really like, wow, look at that.
So the rumor of him and Marilyn Manson being the same person is not true.
Yeah, probably not. I gotta say, you really know your names, and it's awesome. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much. I wrote for Fangoria, and I've done a lot of. I wrote for Fangoria. I write for one called Infinity. I've covered a lot of movies. I've been in a lot of sets, and I've been a thug in some movies and Creatures in others.
Right. No, that's awesome.
I love what you do. I mean, special effects people are always the coolest, most. They're professional.
Oh, yeah.
But they're also chill. Once you know you can cover your ass if the director is going to be upset about something, you're the most mellow cats on the set.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes, we have to be when we're doing pyro and we're rigging, not even the pyro aspect, just rigging fire bars. I was showing Jeff last night some pictures of the movie I just finished, and we had big fire, and we had to have sections. So we had like Zone A, Zone B, Zone C, and for every zone there was probably 10 or 12 flame bars per zone. Well, when they say, okay, you got to bring that up, you got to bring, okay, guys, bring up Zone A, and then you got to do 1 through 11.
Wow.
And then bring up Zone B. So you got to be cool, calm, and collected, and have your wits about you, and do your due diligence. I've always, there's always been a joke like, if you're on set and you see the effects guy running, well, you better try to keep up, because that means something's going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, never had to do that, but
first time for anything, horribly enough.
Yeah, exactly. I got left once, but
really,
yeah, on Volcano in '96, we, that whole movie was about. The one thing we did do live action on that, as far as mechanical effects, was ash. So we had big chippers, and we were bringing in big bundles of gray paper. And so literally the effects guys, we had a whole crew during the day that was just chopping up gray paper to make the ash.
Wow.
And then we were literally throwing that ash in the air. So, like at the end of the night, you would just
physically with a hand, or with a shooting with a fan, or behind
big
you?
fans, big blowers, big air movers, however we could for that particular shot. But for this shot, I'm going to tell you a story on. We were doing a thing where I was on a great all with a big Ritter fan, which is just a huge 6-foot diameter fan. I mean, they're iconic in Hollywood. You probably seen them on commercials, and just big fans. They do like a good 34-mile-an-hour wind. And then on top of that, we had a blower. So the blower would feed the ash up, and then the fan would push it out.
Wow.
So I'm about 60 feet up in the air. And it's just one guy. You're up there, and all you got switches, and you have a forklift driver, which is your transport driver that's on the forklift, the great all. When we shot Volcano, it was one of the biggest sets ever built in cinema history.
Yeah, no, you were by, I want to say, the West Hills?
No, we were in Torrance at the old helicopter plant.
Wow,
built
the
it.
old Hughes helicopter plant.
Yeah,
Holy crap.
yeah. So in '96, it was the biggest set ever built in cinema history. So it was a recreation of Wilshire. So you had LACMA building, you had
The George Page saber-tooth tiger. Wow.
You had you had the La Brea tar pits. We literally had a faux La Brea tar pits. I mean, it looked great. It was amazing. It was a full park.
Wow.
So there was about 12 buildings, and each building was rigged with with propane. Anyway, one night we're all, it's a full crew. I mean, there's extras. There's like 100 extras. There's 100 effects guys. There's 100 crew. So you're talking 300-400 people. Well, there was a airline that broke in one of the buildings. Well, everybody assumed that it was a propane line because we had safety meetings about all this propane. Because, at one given night, we'd have 11 propane trucks feeding those buildings. So that's a lot of propane. Just one propane truck is a lot. Now think about 11.
Wow.
You guys got to.
We're going to go to break.
Let's hold that thought. We're going to go into a commercial break.
Okay. Are we on break now, Dad?
And we will return to the Jeff Sargent Show.
We're live at 8, so you have to pee. Now's the time.
Oh, okay. You want to get my coffee?
Yeah, please. Hold that comment. Hold that with Sean Taylor. Oh, that's true. The star guy. That's great. So we love that Monday. So we want him drinking and partying within the Screen Fest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, matter of fact, I got Clown on speed dial. Yeah, Clown is good. We did a couple of his videos. And
Did you really?
Yeah, and then of course that led into Officer Down. So, matter of fact, I got the interview for Officer Down because of the videos with Clown. Clown's like, no, I want Chris. I'm like,
By the way, thank God.
Yeah. I wish that Officer Down had done a little better. I think as much as I like Clown, I'm a big fan of his. I really feel that.
Okay, we got about 1 minute. Got about 20 seconds.
Doing a finger count. 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're back.
Welcome back to the Jeff Sargent Show. What were you saying, Janky?
I was, Chris was working on Volcano. And at the time, they were trying to rush a Linda Hamilton, Pierce Brosnan movie called Dante's Peak.
Right.
Same thing, basically. You know what I mean? I mean, horrifying volcano destroying modern day society. And Dante's Peak triple time to beat you guys in the theaters.
Right.
And they beat you guys in the theaters, and they went up against the. Jeff loves to watch the show from 10 minutes ago.
Apparently.
It was a mistake. I got keep going. I'm sorry.
So, by the way, if that was a stunt you were doing, you would have blown someone's fingers off. I'm sorry.
Going hot. Jeff's going hot.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Chris. I hope we can glue all that guy's fingers back on.
Well, I'm good at molding. I'll mold some new fingers.
There you go.
The guy, meanwhile, is a pianist. But anyway, so it went up against Empire Strikes Back, and people did not expect the Star Wars movies coming out in January, February, and March to make $100 million in the slow month. So Dante's Peak, while they were very clever in their own minds and beating you, they went right into the propeller blades of Empire Strikes Back re-release, which made 120 in its first run.
Yep, very well said. Very well said.
And I think you guys came out late summer, right?
Yeah, we did. We did because we were still. I mean, there's so many stories I have from that time era, but we were still pouring lava in late January of '97.
Oh my God!
And they were like done. It's like, why are we showing up and still pouring lava on these lava tables? They're like, no, just keep doing it. They might add something at the very end, or because they were in editing. But then we got the word. I mean, I think 2 weeks before we actually ended our visual effects on Volcano, we spent 2 weeks pouring lava, and we were told straight out, movie's done. Like they're done. They're even done with editing. So,
oh man,
it's pretty funny. Like you go to work, like, why am I even here? What am I doing? You know?
Wow.
So, and then they wouldn't let us clean up. They wouldn't let us start tearing stuff down because we had all these tables on gimbals and chain motors and this whole thing. It's like, let's just start tearing it down. Like, nope, just keep pouring lava. So we would roll camera and we would set the lava, roll camera, move the tables. We did that for a couple weeks before they finally said, all right, pull the plug.
What was weird about that is there's a bad guy, John Corbett from Northern Exposure, with a $100 million building. Remember, he was the hot Asian doctor's husband in the movie.
Right.
And he keeps talking about my $100 million building. He's an evil developer. And
we got to have a villain.
Yeah, and they cut away, and you never really see the $100 million building go. But I'll bet any money, I'm damn sure you guys built that building and destroyed it.
We did. It was.
And they cut it.
Yeah, in San Bernardino, it was actually kind of funny. We were in San Bernardino at the old March Air Force bases where we shot the visual effects on that. So we did the lava in Santa Monica, and we did the visual effects, out in San Bernardino. So you talk about two ends of the spectrum as far as driving to work,
Although as an uplander, you're closer to March, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, back then I actually was living in San Bernardino, so it was nice for me, but not when I was going to Santa Monica every morning.
Wow.
We actually built that building. It was on a trip to where the whole thing crashed, and it was about 13 feet tall. and all candy glass and pyro and the whole thing. I mean, it was a big, big rig.
And they didn't use it, which blows my mind.
Yeah, they didn't use a lot of the visual effects that you would have thought they would have used. I mean, they built a full little city. I mean, it was amazing. Damn. But, you know, I haven't seen the movie in years again, but I remember thinking, they didn't use any of that. You know? I
remembered the $100 million building because he has all these speeches about my important building on the Wilshire corridor, and then and then they cut to later in the movie because there's all the flaming fireballs and everything.
Yeah.
My building has been destroyed, and I thought, this is a movie that went to the trouble of building all of this. Why would he tell the audience the building was destroyed? Wouldn't it be easier to show it?
Yeah, pretty interesting. Well, I was gonna finish telling my story about being stuck in the ash, making ash. So here you got a picture. So there's what did I say, at least 300 plus people between crew and extras and the whole 9 yards. And I'm 60 feet up in the air, and we're making ash over a particular shot. Airline goes, and it wasn't just a regular airline. We're talking big air, like big 185 air compressor, like Pullman hose,
right.
Like big 3/4, like it looks like water hose. Yeah. So when that breaks, like it makes a sound like that's very distinctive. But of course, it also would almost sound like a propane line. Or what somebody would think would make
sure.
So when that happened, there was this like weird like pause, and like at the time my fan wasn't going. They were pre-rigging. They were setting cameras and lights. The pre-rig on camera angles and lighting sometimes would take up to 2 hours on that movie. Such a wide, vast area. So anyway, really quick, the airline broke. There was like this subtle moment of where everybody was kind of like, what's happening? And then you just see everybody start running down Wilshire.
Oh, my God. Right?
So you got to figure, at that point, there's at least 150 people on the actual street, and they all start running down Wilshire. Well, I'm like, okay, is it a propane line? And I look down, and I see my driver, a Hollywood Teamster, get out of the Great Hall and start running down the street with him. And I'm stuck 60 feet in the air, and I'm looking at the building. I'm like almost over the building, and I'm staring right at the building.
Oh man.
And it's just like you have this reality of like, okay, if that is propane and something does light, like, okay, what do I do? So I'm I have a Fernie pad, like basically a moving blanket, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I should get under the blanket. I wasn't quite sure what to do. All I knew is my driver was running down the street.
Wow.
And it's so eerie watching 150 people run. Now, I mean,
Teamsters don't run for anything, by the way. So if they're running, yeah, exactly.
Craft service.
My favorite Teamster joke, by the way. Why are there horses on the Teamster logo?
I don't know.
It's the only animal that can sleep standing up.
There you go. Besides Teamsters. No.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Oh,
so
man,
was it propane?
No, it ended up being air. I mean, they figured it out really quick. I mean, the effects guys were on it. I mean, we had 110 of us. So, I mean, they figured it out really quick. And we had safety protocols in place back then anyway. And there was the guy who ran company for Volcanoes, this guy, Smokovich, dear effects guy. Miss him dearly. Matter of fact, I modeled myself on how to run set after him. He always said he sounded like a baseball announcer. So if you have 100, if you have 100 effects guys and they're all on radio, and you're in different parts and you can't really see what's happening and you're stuck, like I said, we had 11, 12 buildings that were rigged. So you have effects guys that would be stuck in a building, a fake building, a faux building all night, and you're just sitting there kind of in the darkness waiting for a cue to bring up your fire bar. But Smokey always did these great things. He just always communicated. He sounded like a baseball announcer. It's like, okay, guys, camera is up, sound is rolling, and here we go. Blah, blah, blah. Actors are in place. So you always knew, like, even if you were kind of half drifting in the darkness of one of the buildings, you could almost take a nap but listen to Smokey. So just a great guy. But anyway, they figured it out really quick. And we, like I said, we had safety protocols. Anything, it was shut down the manifolds, shut down the trucks. There were specific effects guys to that truck, shut that truck down. So everything went into play that night.
So no humming or anything? Yeah.
No. So it was great because, like I said, on a simple little thing like that, an airline braking, we figured it out really quick. Which was good because, that way it's not 10 minutes later and everybody's
right, waiting for the fire marshal to give the okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it really was, but it was just an eerie feeling for me to be 60 feet up in the air.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere.
So that's my one volcano story.
And the cameras weren't rolling, right?
No, cameras weren't rolling.
Wow.
Because this was shot on the old on the film, right?
Oh, yeah,
back in the
film
day.
back then, yeah.
Did you grab any souvenirs from the film?
Let's see, what do I have from there? If I have, it's probably deep in storage. Volcano. No, you know what? I sent Jeff a picture of one of the effects guys, Tom Rosada, who made the plaques and T-shirts for everybody. So I think probably the only thing I have is like a crew T-shirt from there. There wasn't really much souvenirs. Like Kazam, I think there's a basketball somewhere.
Did you get it signed by the man himself?
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, over the years, there's stuff I've collected, and there's stuff that just gets lost, or you build something, some little model or something. You're like, oh, I'm gonna keep that, and at some point it ends up getting lost or stuck in storage, or one of your guys throws it away. So I do have a few things here and there, but mainly nowadays it's posters or T-shirts or that type of thing.
Do you have a brag wall in your house?
I do. My office has my posters up on the movies. I try to put up only the movies that I've worked on or coordinated.
Really? Yeah. Smart.
Because you'll run out of room.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, exactly.
Walls aren't big enough for all this.
Well, with your stunt work, let's take a look at your stunt work.
Here's one. How about this one, Pat? Leprechaun 2, Back in the Hood.
Back in the Hood.
Yes.
One of my dearest friends, Al Kalachi, his cousin Richard did the music for that.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh. It has a following, or it did have a following. It was very interesting to work on that. And it was an honor, too, because at the time, I was recovering from a stunt fall that I had taken.
Oh, no.
Yeah, in 2002, I was doing some pre-rigging for a show called Dog Eat Dog. And, it's, just one of those things. Something failed, and without getting into it, so I ended up falling 27 feet to the ground. Well, 25. But I hit the edge.
What's 2 feet?
Yeah, what's 2 feet?
I hit the edge of the fall pad, which is what pretty much saved my life or saved my legs.
You're not paralyzed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when I hit the edge, it kicked my feet and my legs up, like almost parallel with the ground. And then my butt hit the edge of the fall pad, then I hit the ground. So the reason I bring that up is I spent most of 2002 out. So, obviously in recovery, I broke my back.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah,
shit.
I broke my back, compressed, I broke L4, compressed 3 and 5. But pelvis, I was pretty jacked up. So that pretty much, at the time, you go through a lot of emotional ups and downs. Like, is my career over? Here I am, early 30s, house payments, kids in private school, the whole thing. You go through the whole gamut of.
Were they in web at the time?
Yeah, exactly. You go through the whole gamut of, am I done in Hollywood? Well, since I really have been in it since I was 8, it's like I couldn't even imagine doing anything else.
That would be horrible.
So you have this whole emotional roller coaster. Of course, you're in recovery, so you gotta focus on your recovery. But then you go through the emotional recovery roller coaster of, am I done in Hollywood? Am I done in special effects? Am I done in, as a filmmaker? Am I done coordinating? Am I done doing stunts? Am I done whatever? And so you kind of go through, you're done. And so you think...
Grief.
Yeah,
anxiety.
grief, and then you start feeling silly, like, man, I should have done something else with my life.
Wow.
But an amazing thing happened. So I started doing a lot better going into summer, and so I, there again, I wasn't working. I was on workman's comp, that whole thing, barely surviving. Luckily, I had some money saved, and so you go into it, and I had been asked to do from a dear friend of mine to go do Leprechaun, and I had told the producers, like, listen, you guys all know that I just came back from an injury, so I need, and it's a low budget, Leprechaun 2 was probably like $5 million, if that. At the time, so I told them, like, look, I can't lift anything, I can't do anything, so I am strictly coordinating, like, because I'm a working coordinator, so, like, when you hire me, it's about the relationship, so when I'm on set, I'm working. It doesn't matter that I'm also the coordinator. I'm there getting my hands dirty, and if we have to shovel sand, I'm there shoveling sand.
Wow. Yeah. You know, effects guys do not let the grass grow under their feet. I have noticed that.
Exactly. So when I came in, I started doing Leprechaun, and they said yes to everything, and I pulled my effects truck. It's been setting most of the year, 2002. So pulled my crew together, started working. Well, an amazing thing happened. I went to like Special Effects Unlimited, opened up my accounts, and ordered my expendables from Special Effects Unlimited.
Right.
And everybody's like, "Chris, my God, how you doing? It's good to see you." So in my brain, I was thinking everybody was going to be like, kind of giving me the hand, like, "Hey, it's good to see you," but they know I'm broken now. Like I'm recovering from a broken back. So I thought everybody was going to kind of like turn their back on me. But an amazing thing happened. It was the opposite. People found that I was back. And doing effects, and next thing you know, I started getting calls, and it was calls to work for them and run company and coordinate.
They saw you were okay and able-bodied.
Yeah. So my brain had said I'm done in the business, but my my mentors and my fellow effects guys, they gave me work. I ended up running company for Frank Siglia on the first season of CSI Miami, and he begged me to come run company, which was an honor. Like I was like, wow, okay.
Did you do that out here, faking it, or did you go to Miami?
No, they shot it here. Yeah, they shot it. It was El Segundo. And
El Segundo.
Yeah, and we would shoot in Seal Beach a lot.
Good old Seal Beach.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it was the first show that I think we ever did, for me anyway, because they were trying to shoot for Miami. So they would tweak everything, try to get that hot look.
Yeah, sunny.
So the DPs on that, both, because we had two director photographies, they both would do smoke outside during the day, which you just don't do. If you see smoke in a movie, it's always at night.
Right.
But we were doing smoke, haze, and trying to do Tubes of Death and the whole thing during the day to try to get that hazy Miami, look.
Sure. Wow.
So it was always kind of an odd thing. Like, I'm making smoke during the day. All right, trying to watch, and it's a learning curve, because it's like, well, how do I make smoke during the day?
I was just wondering that. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So, we spent 2002 and going in 2003 doing the first season of CSI Miami, making smoke during the day. That was,
How often did you see Jerry B?
Oh, I saw. I lived with those guys. I mean, they were. That whole crew was pretty amazing that first season. They ended up doing 10 years, I think. Yeah. Well, I only did the one season, but.
Wow, but amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
You deserved a bigger reward doing smoke during the day, though. Let's look at your stunt career. Hold on. Oh, yeah, a lot for Calvin Harris. Hold on.
Yeah, a lot of my stunt coordinating has been in doing the rock videos. I'm associated with a company called Mirror Films out of downtown Los Angeles. Danny Dietz, who owns it. So I have a good relationship with her. So I've been her effects guy for years, and then she gave me the opportunity to actually stunt coordinate some of the videos for her. So we've done Nick Jonas and Slipknot, and we've done some big stuff for Mirror Films. So.
Wow.
Have you ever met, do you know who Scott Leva is?
Mm-mm.
A big stunt coordinator. He innovated the airbag. So no matter where you fall on it, you're going to go toward the inside, and it's changed the revolutionized.
What year did he come out with that?
Well, do you remember
which one?
The Scott Leva
Scott Leva.
When he redesigned that airbag, remember?
I know the name.
He was the stunt coordinator on the original X-Men for Singer.
Oh, okay.
And after that he invented like you said, he moderned the airbag so they wouldn't bend it.
Revolutionized it. Yeah. So he saved a lot of lives.
It wouldn't bend in the alleys like what killed the chick from Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Because
remember they slapped the airbag on the sides of the walls. You can't do that. It's an airbag. It's going to save you.
Exactly.
Yeah, he kept people. You won't bounce off of it, and you won't bounce and fall off. You go wherever you hit it. It brings you toward the center.
Yeah,
and so
it's a lot of technology. And that we're talking 80s then, right? 80s and 90s.
Yes, yeah. Speaking of which, what did you do on the Matthew Broderick Godzilla?
Oh my gosh, let's see. That was also 97. So I just finished out Volcano.
Wow.
So,
We're big Godzilla fans. We collect the toys. And
no, I had a small stint on that. We did a lot of scuba diving at Universal on that. So all the tugboats that were brought down, so that was all done mechanically, and they were visual effects.
Oh, they weren't full size.
They weren't full size, but they were. Let's see, they were probably somewhere between 12 and 15 feet long. I mean, they were miniatures, but they were still
they hooked to cables.
All cable rigging, and then of course we had to rig all the airlines in the tank. That tank is like 20 feet plus.
Yeah.
So all the air to make all the big bubbles and all that rigging to suck those things down. So that was what I was brought in for. So, and by the time I actually had gotten there, a lot of that was already done. So at that point, it was just maintaining the mechanics that did the tugboats for that particular shot.
Wow.
And then, of course, the water at Uni, there's so much metal in that tank that, it's cloudy. So it's just a big rust, so visibility on that is like maybe a foot. And then you add all those underneath lights and it just washes everything out. So you're just down there, you're more or less feeling,
Oh, no.
You go down a rope and you got to check that airline or you got to connect another airline.
How deep was it? If you're there with scuba tank,
It's 20 feet plus.
Yeah?
There's some deeper. It kind of comes down. It's almost like a bowl, and then there's a bottom part that goes deeper. Matter of fact, I got some buddies there that are right there now. Local guy here. Let's see, in Upland, there's a dive shop here in Upland. So Rusty Berry actually.
Yeah.
So he's at Uni right now. I saw his Facebook this morning. He does a lot of safety for the grips. So grips now, in the last 15 years, have gotten into the diving, and pre-rigging. So.
Oh, it's done. When I've installed stuff at Disneyland, they have a dive team there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was working in their quarters when I was working on the Cars Land Halloween costumes, and the divers come in, the scuba dive, the flag, and they got the tanks, and they're water out.
Yeah, but see, they're dealing with the same thing.
They're checking all the pipes and all the lights and all the electrical. There's so much inside that in the water to put on those water shows.
Right, exactly. And they're dealing with the same issue because there's just no visibility.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
That's amazing.
Yep.
What was your favorite set, Chris?
Oh, let's see, my favorite set. In the last couple of years, I would say Preacher's definitely been one. Working last year, and seeing their version of hell and how they would, from a comic book, standpoint. So that was pretty neat. Preacher's been good. As far as sets, there's been a few over the years. Babylon 5 back in the day had some really good sets. I don't know if you guys remember that sci-fi show.
Oh yeah, he's interviewed a lot of people from that show.
Patty Tallman and the rest of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And she was also a stunt woman.
Yeah. So Babylon 5 was good, and then just stuff over the years. You've seen some really good stuff. I think Volcano was probably the biggest set I've ever worked on, as far as just how they built it.
That's a good point, actually. How they built it and set it up, and you know.
That's what's still intriguing to me, just what these guys build, and when you're at Sony, and you're some of the big sound stages there, and you just, you see a set that's inside these massive sound stages. You're like, my gosh, it's a small city or it's a jungle or, it's just it still takes my breath away.
And how about that show Leverage? You ever watch that show Leverage?
I haven't, you know what I mean? But I've seen it on,
Yeah, Leverage was fun. We did we did the first season. Then he ended up taking up to Portland, Oregon. The Leverage was an interesting show because it was all it's kind of spy. So you did a lot of different things on that. So like the one actress, she was a climber, and so it was always rigging her with harnesses and ropes.
Yeah.
And then there was the tech guy, and then of course the main actor who he's the brains. So there's a lot of different levels on that movie. So it was on that project. It was Dean Devlin Productions, and so he was kind of hard to work for. He's done some big stuff since. He's done The Librarian, and he's done a lot of stuff. It was just a very challenging project at the time. Was glad to be a part of it. So,
wow, interesting.
Yeah.
What was your least? Go on, Dan.
I was going to ask Chris, just real quick from my perspective, because I'm not a big movie guy, but I am a businessman. What was most business-friendly state to work in and to shoot in? Because I noticed a lot of Hollywood moving to Canada, and like you said, we lost one to Oregon. I mean, is California still friendly to the industry, or?
Well, I think they want to be. There's a lot of politics. We could probably lose a whole show just on that conversation. But no, you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm literally living in New Orleans now. Like, I just bought a house there recently, and living here also. If you want to pursue big movies, like from my perspective, my equipment and being a coordinator, and I want to pursue big movies and maybe have a shot at doing something really big, I got to follow. I got to, so right now that's Atlanta, Georgia. There's a lot of stuff happening in Alabama, believe it or not. And then, of course, Louisiana has their tax incentives back.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, New Mexico also. So, California, I mean, we all know that, California's a little hard on us Californians, and there's a lot of TV still. There's a lot of videos here. There's, kids shows, but mainly it's TV now, and the big movies are still on the road for those tax incentives. I mean, we did lose a lot going to Canada. And we still do. I have friends that are in Canada right now shooting movies.
Wow, that's amazing to me.
So, but I've also seen that trend before. I feel like you give another 5, 6, 7 years, and then it'll all come back because all those producers are from here. The good chunk of them. So they all at some point do want to come home.
Wow.
So, and I've seen it a few times. I mean, kind of different, but also the same. I think it all comes back full circle. I would say, you go into 2022, 2023, I think you'll see movies here again, I hope. And maybe by then, California will give some tax incentives on a bigger note, to help keep the work here, So.
I've been hearing that since Arnold ran for governor the first time.
Yeah, and I don't think he did. I don't think he gave us any tax incentives.
He did nothing.
Yeah.
He did nothing. Everyone said, "Oh my God, Arnold's going to save Hollywood."
Nope.
Arnold had nothing for Hollywood to help him with.
Right. Exactly.
Did his time as governor and then moved on and started making movies again.
Yeah.
Didn't he do a guest in what was the Unbreakables or no, the Expendables?
Yeah.
Was he still governor and he wasn't allowed to act when he's?
Didn't he
have that?
This is the first time I've heard Arnold be accused of acting. Get to the chopper.
He does have an interesting story, though. I mean, how he came up with the Weeder family and that being discovered by Joe Weeder. I mean, we just did Bigger, the Joe Weeder story. I did that in Birmingham, Alabama. We just did that 6 months ago. It's really interesting listening and discovering. I didn't know much about Joe Weeder and how he got into the whole bodybuilding and the whole thing, and then eventually came across Arnold and brought him into mainstream. And
sure.
It was just that was and that's the other thing. Like with working with movies, sometimes you learn something you don't even know. Like I knew nothing about Joe Weeder, until I got a script about Bigger, and then you read the script, going, "Who's Joe Weeder? Like what? Like what's going on?" And so you do a little research and do your due diligence, and you discover like, man, that guy was amazing. The stuff he was doing in the 40s and 50s and 60s, as far as the body and understanding workout techniques, and that whole world, that was pretty amazing. And of course discovering Arnold and bringing him into, and then he's governor years later.
Governor of California. Wow. I remember Lou Ferrigno was talking. I was in his living room. And he goes, "It might be time to throw my hat in the ring."
He should have.
You should have, yeah. We were going for bodybuilders with weird accents.
Yeah, I wish he liked Trump a little more, but he doesn't. So.
Oh, yeah. I keep hearing the joke that he'll be the head of. Lou will be the Secretary of Health because he was fired by Donald Trump.
There's one show here. I used to love the girl in this. I loved her glasses, and they called her Ugly Betty.
You worked Ugly Betty?
Oh yeah, I did a small little stint on Ugly Betty. The coordinator, I think he was out on an injury. Trying to blank now what actually happened to him. A guy named Jeff Miller, who's a dear friend and good effects guy, and coordinator. Yeah, I was asked to come in from him and a guy named John Kazine, also a really good effects guy and coordinator. They asked me to come in. I think I did five episodes on Ugly Betty.
Wow.
America Ferrara, she was amazing.
Was she really?
Yeah. I actually met one of my closest friends on this guy, Rich Jacobs, who's now an effects coordinator. It was, a small show, but they always had stuff going on. They had this really elaborate fireplace, and there was always rain and wind. And
so you were doing character weather, set up the scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing because Ugly Betty was, God, that was years. What? I'm sorry, I'm just getting kind of blown away. You're still young, but what year did you start in the movies? Was it inherited from your father, or did you
No,
just
it was
get
my
in early?
my stepmom did hair and makeup.
Oh, okay.
So, like I was saying earlier when we first started, at 8 years old, I was just, she had picked me up from school, because we were right there in Burbank. And then I would just do my homework on set. So
on the Rockford Files.
Yeah,
That's
Rockford
hilarious.
Files. So,
How cool is that,
and
man?
Quincy, you were Quincy as well?
I work on Quincy,
Wow.
Who's the Boss. So I was just
Oh,
always
Alyssa
on
Milano.
set. I was always just, I was just on set doing homework or doing something or just hanging out. So a lot of times, like all these little vouchers that I got, is because I was just there. And then, they would see me like, well, hey, we need a kid, or let's put a kid on, let's put the kid in the shot. So like a lot of my vouchers back in the day were all extra. It was all extra work. But think about it, like when you're 9, 10 years old, and
Yeah.
you're getting little checks for $30.
You eat a
know?
cookie.
Yeah, I mean, it was great.
Craft services alone would have been worth
Exactly.
it.
No, my dad actually was a private investigator.
Wow.
So I had two far ends of extremes of life. So if I wasn't with my stepmom on a movie set, I was stuck in a surveillance vehicle with my dad. So let me tell you, you learn a lot. And like 10 years old, you probably know more than you probably should, between the movies and being, with private investigators and FBI guys and CIA guys. Oh, my God.
Your dad's peeing into a 7-Eleven coffee
Yeah,
cup.
totally. Dad, I got to go to the restroom. Well, hold it, kid. That type of thing. So, and then, of course, if my dad's in pursuit of a subject, it's like, hold on for dear life. My dad was a good wheelman, so
Wow, just like in the movies, huh?
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you. I mean,
What kind of car did he drive?
Oh, my dad had a bunch of surveillance vehicles. He had his favorite was a '66 Mustang.
Oh,
But he had Mavericks and he had Honda Accords and of course van. When Dodge Caravans came out like in the mid '80s.
yeah.
Those every private investigator went to a van. Because those minivans were awesome. You could put curtains in them, and
Right.
you can move around except for being in one seat. So,
Wow, that's so cool.
yeah, and those vans back then, they had a lot of get up and go. Those little 4-cylinders and 6-cylinder vans.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were some times I'm sure that if Child Protective Services had seen what my dad did with me in the car. Going through red lights, going through parking lots to come out to make a left.
Also, because he was trying to lose you at that point.
No,
He
he did. Like if you're following a subject and they get the left turn on you, they're gone by the time that light turns on you. So, if they make the left turn, like he would cut through traffic, go through a parking lot, come out the other side, make the left to catch them. I mean, the stuff he would do, I'm like, oh God, I'm just holding on for dear life.
And like the Israeli, I saw this great documentary on A&E where this Israeli bodyguard said, if you ever think you're being followed, make 3 sharp right turns.
Right. Or lefts.
Yeah, or lefts. And that's a full circle. So they're following you, and they want to be following you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was-
mine's a PI, and he said he spent 10 hours at Kaiser just waiting for this doctor to come out. That his wife hired him, saying, my husband's cheating on me, and he was a doctor.
Oh my God.
What'd you do today? He goes, I sat at Kaiser for 10 hours and followed the guy home.
Oh yeah.
He goes, "But I
And
still
that
got
was
paid."
it. Pay me.
Yeah, well, I told you guys in 2002, I got hurt. I broke my back. So they, one of the things, I didn't get an attorney against NBC or against Fear Factor or Doggy Dog or any of that in the beginning. I was, because it was all filmed. So it was all filmed. I didn't do anything wrong. It was technically, it was an equipment kind of failure. So I just did everything legit. We got to understand, I also grew up around, my dad was, a lot of stuff that he did back in the day was insurance investigations, so insurance fraud, so neck and back disability cases and things. So kind of knowing that, and growing up and only seeing one side of it, that everybody's a con artist, You know, it wasn't until, you know, my 30s that now I'm basically a claimant, you know, that you learn that there's another side to that coin, you know. And, of course, an investigator tried to follow me one day going to a doctor's appointment, and I was so mad. Oh, I shell-shocked the guy because, of course, you're not going to follow me, you know. And I picked him out of my residential area right away. And I knew I was going to a doctor's appointment, and that's like the biggest thing. You know that, oh, your subject is going to a doctor's appointment. It's easy to follow them, you know. So they take film of you, like walking out of your house and getting into your car, and they film you getting out of your car, walking into the.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's still.
Make sure you're not doing cartwheels.
Yeah, totally. So there's only two back in the day where I used to live. There was only two ways in and out of my little residential area. So, and the way he was facing, I knew he already scoped out where the doctor's appointment was. So I kind of go out the back way, knowing he's going to go the front way and try to catch me, you know? So I go out the back way, and then I basically go into this little strip mall, and I wait for him to pass, and then I follow him.
Wow.
I'm on his, and I'm mad. I was more hurt at the point because I'm like, I've been working with the workman's comp people, doing everything they asked me to do. I didn't get an attorney. I'm not trying to sue NBC. I'm doing everything they asked me to do. And then they sent an investigator at me when they clearly saw me on video.
That's amazing to me.
So I'm on this kid's butt, you know, and he was probably mid-20s. He was young. And here I am now. I'm probably put myself in danger because now here I am driving erratically, and I'm on his butt, and he's just like, "What the heck?" So now I'm like behind him, you know. Oh,
that's hilarious.
Very funny. That guy probably still tells stories about that.
Yeah.
I was laughing. You mentioned who's the boss with Alyssa Milano.
Yeah.
She played, to bring our conversations full circle, she played future Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter in Commando, shot on our very own Mel Baldy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
right.
Yeah. That was I was there for my stepmom did hair and makeup for the pilot. So we were there for the pilot, and I still remember the night that they finished out the pilot for that. And was it Tony Danza? Who was
Yeah.
I think it was Denson.
So I don't know if you guys remember. I mean, it's, you know, the very first pilot on that. You know, he gets hired by her, and he goes into the bathroom where she was taking a bath. Well, the whole scene was that he's supposed to be shell shocked because he sees her naked in the tub, right?
I remember that. I remember that episode.
So I was literally there on set. I mean, I can still remember, and I can't even tell you how old I was. You know, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that area. And the whole thing was they couldn't get his reaction correct. Right? And so they kept going again and going again and going again and going again. Well, finally, I forget her name.
Judith Light.
Yes, thank you. Which I have a funny story about
Well,
her.
I want to hear it. Wow.
So anyway, Judith Light, she just basically gets naked. Now, of course, I don't see it. I'm back. You know, I'm with.
I would have taken a good look for the team, champ.
So all of a sudden, all I remember, though, the thing I still remember about that night is just the roar of laughter. You know, because obviously he wasn't expecting it, and of course, you know, obviously she was like, "Okay, whatever," and they got his reaction. You know, but I still remember that laughter and thinking about that whole thing. So now, flash forward. So let's just say you'd have to work out the math on how old I was, but.
Right.
Let's say I was like 13. Whatever.
Yeah, I know, it makes sense.
So years later, I end up on Ugly Betty, and Judith Light comes on set on one of our episodes, and guess what we have to do? We have to put her in a bathtub full of mud. Now, of course, I had nothing to do with the first time, you know, on Who's the Boss. It just happened to be there.
You just brought the erection.
Yeah. So the whole thing was I had to have America Ferrara and Judith Light in this bathtub, 2 bathtubs with this mud, like they're at a spa.
Wow.
Right? So we had to do our due diligence because, of course, you know, we can't stain the actresses. You know, it's like, so what mud do they use? I had to do this whole due diligence about in getting the mud. I had to buy this specific spa mud, and we had to do a test and make sure it doesn't stain their skin and that whole thing. Well, then the other thing, too, is I have to now heat this mud. So I have to come up with an effects way to heat the mud and keep it, you know, at like, you know, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, because, you know, because it's not really we don't really have those spa, you know, tubs.
Right.
So anyway, we go through all that. I work it all out and how to keep the mud warm at a certain temp. And they've approved the mud, and it doesn't stain America's skin. And Judith Light signed off. So I go through all this rigging. And the day on the shoot, you know, we have Judith Light in there, and we have America, and we shoot our scene and the whole thing. And I had already had safety meetings with Judith Light. So I proceed at the end of that day to go up to Judith Light and say, hey, do you mind if I talk to you for a minute? And she's like, oh, yeah, great, Chris. So what do you got? And so I tell her the story about being like 13 or 12 or 13, the night that she basically flashed herself on Who's the Boss. And then, you know, it was like worlds come full circle. Now here I am as an effects coordinator, and I'm putting you in a tub, you know, 18, 19 years later. She gave me the warmest hug, and she just could not believe that story.
That's
amazing. I
amazing.
ended up getting a picture from her,
and she knew, but she knew you'd seen her breasts. She did.
Well, no, I mean, I hadn't. That's the thing, though. I didn't.
It was in the trailer.
No, I just was on set. I was just on the stage. But, you know, and then, of course, you figure out later, like, you know, my stepmom said, oh, well, she actually got naked. You know, like, you know, as a kid, they're not going to allow me on the set.
No.
But I was, you know, but I'm right there behind the walls. You know, I was probably sitting there reading or something. Like I was telling you earlier, like, I remember the roar of laughter from Who's the Boss when she flashed him. But Judith Light she just got the biggest kick out of that. You know, that here I am, you know, that I told her this
same
story.
shot. Yeah.
she, I mean, you could just see, she was like, oh my God, I remember that night, you know, and she's like, you were there. And I'm like, yeah, I was, you know, on stage, you know.
Wow.
So, you know, I've had a few situations like that. We were talking about Spice Williams, Jeff.
I know Spice. I love her.
Yeah, he's a good friend of her.
So one of the things I did in my mid-teens, I used to work for this prop guy and prop master. And, you know, like if I wasn't doing stunts or working for him. Well, anyway, he talked to me in one summer of working for a friend of his who did pools. He had a really, really elaborate pool service. Like all those houses on Ventura Boulevard, you know, in Studio City and you know, all those rich, fancy houses. This guy did all those pools. So it was a decent job, you know, for the summer. You know, they were slow. The prop master was slow. Stunts was slow. So anyway, I ended up cleaning pools one summer. I was 18, I think. And anyway, Spice Williams was one of the clients.
Oh, wow.
Right? So there again, you know, here I am 18, 19, and I'm cleaning her pool. And of course, one of the times
she looks great, by the way.
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
wow,
Still,
wow.
yeah, still.
Oh, she still kicks ass.
She looks like her. Spice Williams looks like her own action figure.
She is her own action figure. So we you know, so I came to do her pool one day, and she's just laying out naked.
Wow.
Like, you know, and I was just, you know, and of course the pool guy, the guy who actually owned the company, had warned me, you know, Spice will probably be out there. She'll probably do it on purpose, knowing you're coming on Wednesday at like 1 o'clock.
By the way, hubba.
Yeah, exactly. So there again, so years later, I end up coordinating a stunt job for The Weeknd, the artist The Weeknd, and I end up hiring Spice to be a police officer in one of these scenes that I'm stunt coordinating, and so. Ty Walker, who's another effects, or actually a stunt coordinator, I actually brought him in, and he hired everybody. And I said, hey, if you can get Spice, you know, bring in Spice. And her name had come up. And I thought, how cool would it be for me to actually hire Spice? Here I am years later again, you know. And so, and then, of course, also stunt coordinating, because it's not my main gig. My main gig, obviously, is effects coordinating.
Right.
So Spice comes on set, and we're at the 6th Street Bridge, you know.
Which is now gone, sadly.
Yeah, I know. It kills me. And so here we are, and she's already in her cop uniform, and so I end up going up to her, hey, I'm Chris Bailey, blah, 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 make sure, you know, hey, you got your paperwork? She goes, oh, yeah, Chris, all the paperwork's done, I got my voucher, blah, 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 and talk to her about what we're going to do as far as how we're going to, you know, which way we're going to drive the cop cars and all this stuff. And so there again, pull her aside and say, hey, so you got a minute? Can we have a conversation? And she's like, yeah, Chris, what's going on? And so I proceed to tell her, so you remember back in the day, Roger Yak, the pool guy? She says, oh, my God, I had him for, you know, she starts saying, well, I had him for years as my pool guy. Well, I was one of his guys that worked for him when I was 18. And she just started
She knew where this was going. Yeah.
She just started laughing. She goes, yeah. She goes, I really used to mess with you guys all the time.
She always looks amazing, though. You know what I mean? I mean, wow.
And her kid now, I mean, he's all grown up and he's buff. And
he looks like Kazar of the Jungle.
Yeah, we met him at Monster Palooza last year. I remember, this is my son. I'm going, wow.
Yeah, she's amazing. So it was really neat. There's been some full circles in my career that those moments in time where it just kind of makes it worth it. You know, you walk away going, all right, maybe I haven't made millions of dollars, but I've definitely made my footprint in the movie industry.
You have fun. You've got security. You know what I mean in terms of saving, putting stuff aside, and everything. I think you've done a lot. You know what I mean. Then more. Explain what E3 means.
Well, E3. So originally, my company was Everest Effects Enterprises, and back in the day, I used to do a lot of climbing. I climbed all through my junior high and high school. I was always climbing and doing stuff and going places.
Do you know Byron Shumpert?
Nope.
He's the one who created him and Zach. They created the Hangar 18.
Oh, right. I have been there. Yeah, I used to take my kids.
Those guys owned. They're mountain climbers, and I molded all the holds for their wall.
Did you
awesome.
really?
Yeah.
The one in the little
I was up there 40 feet putting that shit on there.
Upland?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I helped build that place.
They're still there, yeah.
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 That place is pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's one of the highest climbing things in Southern Cal.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's one of the highest.
Yeah, my daughter used to go. My son used to go. My daughter was actually more into it than my son.
So you developed that iron monkey gorilla grip.
Back in the day, not so much anymore, obviously, but
you're still tight.
My accident kind of killed me of any of that. Yeah. So anyway, for years, so one of my goals back in the day, when you're 16 and young and dumb, you're like, oh, I'm going to climb Mount Everest before you realize.
Yeah.
The work and the money.
Yeah.
I get it. No.
So the plane flying alone.
Yeah. So Everest Effects Enterprises was the name of my company. It still is. But after years and years and years, it's just a mouthful to say,
Yeah.
And so anyway, one of my dear friends, she Sarah Geller, she came.
Oh, Buffy.
Huh? No.
Oh.
I wish, no, different
sorry.
story. So Sarah came to me one day and she goes, "Hey, I have an idea." She had been playing with an idea about E3 equals effects, and I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of neat." And so it was one of those random things. I think I made a T-shirt or something, and then I think I made a hat, and then I got a lot of feedback from my producers about it. Like, "Hey, we really like E3." E3 sound, because it rolls off the tongue easier than saying Everest.
Everest.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of lose them, So E3, so then we just kind of went with it. So like my company in New Orleans now is E3 equals effects NOLA LLC. But here in California, it's still Everest, So,
Yeah.
Smart.
yeah, but so I get a lot of people asking me like, well, E3. It's like, well, the three E's, E squared, and then I want, then I got all these math people trying to explain to me how it is or isn't.
And then we got the video, the gaming convention called E3, which I've done work for.
Right. exactly. But I own it, so that's one good thing.
No, you own your own shop. That's great.
Yeah.
So let's go. We only got about 15 minutes. I want to cover some Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. You got 3 movies there.
Oh my gosh, Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's see, where was I? That kind of came out of nowhere. That I got that job because of my scuba diving abilities.
So
Would you use
doing a lot of underwater rigging?
Yeah, like I met a dear friend and who I still work for and I'm doing stuff for in New Orleans. Matt Kutcher for Spectrum Effects, and Matt brought me to Washington. We did a thing called The Fugitive in 2000.
Oh, that was the Tim remake
Tim
of the
Daly,
the Tim
the remake of.
You shot that up in Seattle, I believe, right?
Yeah, Mukilteo.
You were in Mukilteo.
Mukilteo, Washington.
Home of they have the Mukilteo gooey ducks.
I don't know about that, but they have the Boeing plant there, which is the biggest thing you've ever seen in the world.
My brother-in-law works there. My sister's husband, Jim.
Yeah. They have their own weather pattern in that building.
That's what I heard.
Clouds, that's how big that place is.
Wow.
It actually will rain inside. You're like,
oh, that's cool as hell.
Yeah. So the diving has kind of followed me around over the years. So when I got the call, they had the changing of the guards as far as effects coordinators on Michael Lanterry, special effects, did the first one.
I love Michael Lanterry. He's in my Hulk book. He goes all the way back to the Universal backlot. He was working on, he did the Ang Lee Hulk, where Ang Lee wanted Hulk to have real heft and weight. So everything that the visual effects Hulk breaks in the movie,
right,
they would have a pile driver smash through a real brick wall. He went... which was...
Right. Michael Lanterry, not that we'll go off on a tangent on him. I respect him wholeheartly. He is one of the first visionaries. Well...
Oscar winner, T2.
Yep. But also for just your standard effects guy, like, he paved the way for us to really believe that we can make $1 million a year in this business. To where you get simple little effects guys like me dreaming about coordinating and thinking, hey, someday I could be Michael Lanterry, because we know he made $1 million last year.
His wet bar is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So Michael Lanterry had walked away. I'm not sure all the politics of it back then. I mean, it was whatever. But Pirates 2 and 3 were done by Alan Hall, who is the new owner of Special Effects Unlimited after Joe Lombardi sold. And so Alan Hall, who's also Academy Award-winning special effects coordinator, when he came in, they had this whole changing of the guards because a lot of people left when Michael Lanterry left. So they ended up with a crew.
Yeah, the loyalty. And,
right.
And I know Frank, his brother, went with him.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I think so. So, I don't know.
We'll talk.
Yeah, exactly. So the, anyway, I get a call over the Christmas break, because now they're trying to figure out who the heck they're gonna, they need scuba divers, they need effects guys, they need welders, they need, because half the crew left. So that's how I ended up on Pirates 2 and 3, and I was brought in as a diver, so which was great because it was just it was a lot of work, but at least I wasn't welding because it was 90 degrees and the humidity was
that would be the worst. Yeah.
So those guys that were welding there, oh my God, I felt so bad for them because they're in full weld garb and welding in that heat and in that humidity in the Bahamas. Oh.
Were you there when Bloom's stunt guy got jacked up?
Let's see. I wasn't on set that day, but I was there. I was somewhere in the vicinity within 20 miles. Wow. But I wasn't out there with the boats. There was a lot of stuff I was doing. Disney had built a tank, and that's where it was a whole gimbal system where they'd put say the Black Pearl and make it rock. Oh, yeah. And there was a whole rigging process on rigging the Black Pearl. So I spent a good chunk of my time on that gimbal process, because every time they may want to shoot it where the bow is facing east and then the bow's facing west. Well, that's a whole de-rig and re-rig, and sometimes that would take up
all
to
that for reverse shots of the...
Yep, and so you would get that thing rocking. And then when I wasn't there, I was on the Ghost ship, and we were dealing with the cannons, because the cannons were on a full slide, pneumatic slide. So all those cannons with doors opening and the cannons coming out.
And this is all life-size scale?
This is all life-size
scale. Wow.
So that whole rig that Michael Lanterry's guys had rigged with, you hook up, you had, say, bays of, 10 cannons, full live cannons. Now, of course, they're fiberglass cans, but they're full. I mean, they're 6 feet tall. So the whole door opening and the cannons popping out, that was a whole air system. But of course the salt water was wreaking havoc on all that stuff. So we were constantly maintaining it and all the slides and all the bearings. So I spent a lot of time on the Ghost ship too. So it was
amazing.
Yeah, it was a good run. I learned a lot.
But they actually took you out there.
Yeah, I was out there. I was out there for a long time. And then once I came back, that's when I kind of jumped into TV again. So that's when I ended up doing the 9. Tim Daly also did the 9. We did. I did a lot of TV after that before I jumped back into movies. So.
Wow, but that's great. TV's steady work. You know?
Yeah. I hate it, but I like it.
In fact, were you working out when they were filming with Dean Cain out here at the what's the arena out here?
Oh yeah, Citizens Bank Arena with the Ontario rain play.
I was doing an episode of Hit the Floor. I was one of the basketball coaches.
Oh, really? Yeah, I never traveled out there, but when we did some mechanical effects on that. Now on shows like Hit the Floor, you day play as an effects guy on that, so they'll call you on, say, episode 5 and say, hey, we have a water gag, or we have a flame gag, or we have something.
Sure.
So you might come in for 3 days on one episode and not even see them again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with Everest, I could end up doing 50 TV shows in a calendar year, but I might have only spent 1 day on them.
Yeah.
So.
Any desire to direct your own script, to make a movie in Upland?
We've played with ideas. There's always that opportunity. My brother and I have produced a few little things. We did a thing, Reality Gone Bad. We shot that in Mexico, and we shot some stuff in Vegas. So someday, my son's actually pursuing directing, so I would like to pursue helping him And if I could back him up with my knowledge, then yeah, I could see myself directing and doing some stuff someday.
Well,
most certainly.
Good to know, man. You know what I mean? You're getting ready to go to New Orleans for Preacher?
I leave Monday, and we'll jump on Preacher, but we also got to finish... we have NCIS New Orleans out there that we're finishing. Wow. Scott Bakula, and then we're also doing a show called Claws for TNT.
Oh, the nail parlor gangster thing. Yeah,
we've been doing all the shootouts. I mean, it's mob and mob. It's mob on mob, basically.
But squibs, a lot of squibs.
A lot of squibs, a lot of pyro.
So this is actually our last show till I return.
Right.
Because I'm going with this guy.
Chris is shaking his head no.
I'm gonna take.
He's flying. I gotta drive the truck.
No, I'm gonna take Jeff out there with us. With his mold making, background. We have the one thing that New Orleans is lacking is the prop shop end of special effects, and we need mold makers out there. We need we have one candy glass company. Well, two basically, but they're both SoCal. So if I need to paint a breakaway glass, I got to order it here, ship it there. So one of the things we want to do is set that shop.
Set that up in the shop, and we can just make our stuff right there.
Yeah, Matt Kutcher, Spectrum Effects. He has a beautiful shop that's brand new, and we're going to
Spectrum Effects out in New Orleans or out here?
Yeah, Spectrum Effects is in New Orleans. He's also here, but it's mainly NOLA now. Spectrum of NOLA.
Wow.
Spectrum, they're going to, at some point with his second shop, I could see big CNC machines making, because actually where Matt Kutcher came from was, making rubber guitars, baseball bats, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like the WWE stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, the stuff that you're going to hit people with, crowbars, axes, whatever,
So we want to be able to build that.
Oh, there's our sound of a break. Okay, Chris, where can people follow you on Facebook?
Everest Effects Enterprises, Facebook, or Chris Bailey Chris Bailey.
Thanks a lot for coming in. Have a safe trip to New Orleans.
And we'll see you probably around the weekend of
the
Hollywood show.
We'll be back in question mark.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't shut off your internet connection yet. Coming up, we got Look with the Cat dragged in with the lovely Cat Monroe. Rerun of the Black Lung Show.
Great show, man. Very well done.
No, that was cool.
Doing
a picture with you.
Oh, no problem.
Rock.